The Joe Rogan Experience.
So then COVID starts. Somebody sends me an article from the New York Times about ayahuasca. And I'm like, and he's like, we got to do this. I'm like, all right. I get a number, get a private. I had to go off antidepressants. This is October 2020. So I wean myself off of, I'm taking Zoloft all the time. And I'm like, why am I taking Zoloft? I'm like, I don't need it, Frank. Because the problem was, without Zoloft, I wasn't depressed, but I was getting panic attacks on stage, which is like, this, I can't have this. So I take Zoloft, and I wouldn't get panic attacks.
Only on stage.
Yeah. And one time I got one in a meeting. It was fucking weird. I'm like, I know this person. It was just odd. I would just get them for seemingly no reason. And so go off antidepressants, do ayahuasca with one shaman type guy at my buddy's house, and it's very pleasant. It was we did 1 cup. It was me, Bianca from the store, my friend Bijan, Sarah Mello, and it was nice, right? It kind of felt like I cried about groups of people.
Groups of people.
I don't know, just gatherings of people made me cry.
Huh.
I was crying so hard, where your nostrils are closed.
And is it unusual that you experience the kind of sadness that makes you cry?
It wasn't even sadness. It was kind
joy?
of tears of
joy,
reverie, not joy, and not tenderness. We'll say tenderness about from a place of love,
okay,
more than a place of sadness,
right.
Or it was
you
just
feel connected to
yeah,
them.
yeah. I feel connected to the earth. I was getting also seeing wide shots of forests.
Ooh,
It's just okay, cool. So and then it lasts about 3.5 hours. Then we all hang out, talk, whatever. And then I find that guy was kind of a lightweight, and then I find a better circle to do it in via someone that I met on a commercial. She was like, come to the circle. So first night at the circle, it's by Six Flags in LA. It's not Peru. I couldn't get the amount right. And I was just kind of nauseous and didn't really feel much. And I did ayahuasca, did 2 or 3 cups of ayahuasca. I tried this thing called hape, which is they blow ash, sacred tobacco ash, up your nostrils. And it's like you have fucking rocks in your head. I've never felt a thing like this. And apparently it multiplies the ayahuasca for 8 to 10 minutes. It's like a fucking mushroom in Super Mario Brothers where you're
whoa,
stimulated. And you can do a thing where you do an intention, and a lot of times you'll vomit up, you'll purge up a thing, a notion. I got a lot of stories.
So the ash
goes
up
if you
your
look,
nose.
it's spelled RAPE with an umlaut over the E. So it's spelled rape, but it's with an umlaut over the E. And people blow. It's in a thing called a tepe, and
so that's just smoke. But they
that's smoke.
they were
But
using
there's one.
ash.
The first one that's smoke. If you do get rid of ayahuasca and smoke, just put an umlaut over the E.
Yeah, but the problem is rape crisis. It just goes to the.
If you put if you put a thing over the E.
How do you do that on a regular keyboard?
You just hold the E.
You hit Option and then hit E, and they all come up.
Can you Google rape?
Yeah, there we go.
Let's see. Okay.
There you go.
There he goes. There. Oh wow, that's wild. That looks painful.
It's wild.
Look at the face.
Yeah. I tried that.
And so the ash goes up your nose.
Yeah.
And
you're like it. I didn't try. I was just like, yo, this shit. People purge immediately. But a lot of times you can purge up a notion. You can purge up an intention. You can purge up. I mean, a buddy of mine purged up his mother's hatred of him.
Oh, Jesus.
Like a thing. Oh, I'm basically a goofball. I'm like a new age goofball is what I'm trying to tell you. So that's the first night it's my second career night, first night at the new circle. Second night, I get the amount correct, and I was an atheist, and I opened my eyes at one point in the circle, and I was like, oh, I'm in the presence of God right now. I can't explain it. It's a feeling. I am in the presence of what I can only describe as God. And I was like, this is the first spiritual experience I've ever had in my entire life. 12 years of Catholic school, altar boy, church, mass, fucking nothing. And then this was like, oh, this is what church is supposed to be. Like this connection to the center beam or the center force. And like a real profound, like, okay, I'm no longer an atheist.
Whoa.
I now believe in a God or creation force.
And obviously the question would be, someone would ask you if they were trying to diminish this, they would say, but you are on drugs.
Yeah.
You understand that you're on drugs,
Yep.
and this is not a real experience,
Yeah.
and this is all highlighted by the hallucination
Sure.
that's happening, the neurotransmitters, and the way it's affecting your brain.
Yeah, here's the thing, I can't counter that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not one of these things where, like, it's true for me.
Right, but here's the question. Here's what I always say.
Mm-hmm.
Is I had this very same conversation with Dennis McKenna, and we both agreed on this, that who cares if it's real?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same experience. Like if you took a pill, and that pill, or you took ayahuasca, and that ayahuasca makes you reach that state, or if you reach that state from saying an incantation and then you walk through
Holotropic breathing.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
How do we know that that's not real? Like, imagine if God was real and you could get in front of God, but the only way to do it is to eat mushrooms. He'd be like, wait, what?
I would argue that's true.
It might be.
I mean, do
It
you know what I mean?
sounds
Like,
so
in my
crazy,
experience,
but it might be.
it's the only way. Now, the good thing is, it's in me now. Because then I was no longer on ayahuasca, and I was like, that was as real a thing as has ever happened to me.
It's in you, meaning it's changed you?
Yeah.
So the depression's gone?
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay.
So, no. My belief in God.
Yes.
Belief in a central creation force, right? And by the way, I know how this sounds. It's very
okay.
mockable. It's very reducible.
Listen,
and like,
this podcast is filled with mockable, reducible things.
Sure. Laughing all the way to the bank. And getting mocked all the way to the, so the fourth time I do it, that circle that I was doing it in, they weren't like COVID. They were like loose with COVID, and it's like 20 people in a room, and this is in like before the vaccine. It's just like early. So I'm like, a guy got COVID right after the ceremony. I'm like, could you test? And they're like, we don't really test, whatever. So I went back to the first guy, the original guy, and did a private with Ian Edwards and my friend Catherine, and worked for Ian. He had a great time. Not great time, but like a profound spiritual time. My friend Catherine was sort of like very uneasy. And it wasn't working for me. And I kept saying, yeah, it just wasn't working. I was like, maybe I'll take more, because like it felt like I had to work out the amount at the other place. So this place, I was like, maybe I'll take more. And I probably ended up drinking like an ounce. And I've come to drink around a quarter of an ounce. But so this was like an ounce. And it wasn't working. Hit me like a fucking freight train, where like I purged, and I went into, like, I would have a thought like, what? And in my brain it sounded like I'd go, what? And it would go, and I was like, oh, I'm in Pink Floyd land. Like, I'm gone. I'm going to be a drug casualty. Then I was in outer space, alone, and the universe was dying. You're alone. We're killing Saturn. Children. The Milky Way. Like, that was the message I was getting. Like, it's all dying, and you're alone. And I breathed I mean, it's the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced until I'll get to the thing that topped it. I was breathing just in case. I was literally like breathing. I was breathing like this. And I was for like, he said about 2.5 hours. I have no recollection of any of it other than I'm in outer space. Like I was, when I came to, I slept with the lights on for a few days. It was so terrifying to my absolute core. But I realized about 3 or 4 days after that from not being on antidepressants, I'd say the floorboards of my mood were a little mushy. Like I could get lower than I could without antidepressants. I'm sorry, with antidepressants, it would be like more sort of secure. And not on antidepressants, it was a little loose and gushy. And I realized about 4 days after that terrifying outer space experience that it was completely secure. And it was like polished granite.
Like it fixed your brain.
Yeah, like I'm never going to, and I literally was like, I'm never going to need antidepressants again. Positive.
And you haven't had them since?
No.
Really?
Yeah. That was December 2020.
That's incredible.
Year and a half.
And here we are. It's the end of May.
Yeah. So this is a year and a half
in
later.
2022.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah. I had a little panic on stage, but I figured that out. So that was so I've done Aya 4 times at this point, had that experience, and I was like, I really like Aya in that it's a connection to spirituality. You know what I mean? Like in I don't have any besides that, you know. And so I went to the other place, the Good Circle, and I had a few rough ceremonies. Like one of them in the room, I heard a tiger, like it's in the room. There is a tiger in the room. Acoustically, it was like there was a tiger in the room. And then I hallucinated a tiger came around an altar, and I went like real fucking fear. And I had a couple tough journeys like that where it was another one that was funnier is I thought, I mean, dude, in this circle, I've seen people get possessed. They had to tie a guy up. Like it's impossible, but I've seen it. It's one of these things where I'm like, this shit's wild. That one where the guy was possessed, they had to pour salt in his mouth, like real wild shit. I'm like, oh, this is the rapture. This is the rapture. We're in the rapture. This is the end. Like we're in. So I had that like rapture thing again, and they go, let's go around the room, just check in with everybody, Neal. And I go, not good. Like couple words to describe your feeling. I go, not good. And then they go to the next guy and he goes, I'm balancing. And I'm like, balancing? Dog, this is it. Like it's over. And then when I heard balancing and then as they went on, I was like, oh, this is not the rapture. I was like, Neal, this is your problem and your problem alone.